right. Hello, everyone. It's
Hello.
Drinker and MauLer. We're both here to talk to you.
Yeah. To
Welcome.
continue the journey, the
Yeah.
adventure.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it's been quite some time since we did this last, and it was really good fun. I've been slowly but patiently introducing MauLer to the world of Star Trek, one movie at a time. And we did a watch through of Wrath of Khan, and I feel like that was like a year ago or something crazy. It's like time has
Time
flown.
has flown by, yeah.
And we kept saying we'd do others, and then people kept hassling us on Open Bar,
Those
and
mean
eventually,
people.
I know, and eventually I was like, okay, I'll do it. All right, I hope you're happy.
Fine.
No, in reality, it was just the kind of prompting that I needed, and I was like, I'd always meant to do more of these, and I'm glad we got the impetus to do it. So here we are. We're going to be doing a little watch through of Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock, and
Yes.
just like last time, I think it would be useful to give you guys a little preamble before we start our like watch through together. Yeah, MauLer, as he did with Wrath of Khan, he watched the movie just before we did this, just so we could get some initial impressions, and then we could watch it together. And so I guess I would like to turn it over to you for a little while, Mr. Longman, and just ask what was your initial thoughts on
Well,
this
this is,
movie.
the next chapter in my Star Trek journey. For anybody joining us at this point, all I've seen is a couple of episodes here and there of TNG, I think. And then I'm aware of clips of like the original series, and then I've seen Abrams' Star Trek and Into Darkness. That is my total. But don't worry, I didn't like those. So like I didn't think they were very good. And it's just funny because over time those have completely flattened in terms of people's perspective on them. And so then Drinker had me see well, you wanted me to see Wrath of Khan, but I checked out the first movie as well, the motion picture, which we have talked about if you want to hear what we thought of both of them, which led me up to Search for Spock, which is the next chapter. And I'm actually curious exactly what the trajectory is. Are we going from the, I'm assuming we're doing, is it 6 of the original movies?
Yeah, I would say it makes sense to do that. Yeah, if you're up
Where
for
would we
it.
go after that? Would it be the TNG movies, or would that make no sense?
I mean, we could do those. I struggle to recommend them really, but I feel like to do the original 6 movies and give our commentary on that, I think it's a nice little journey for us, and then perhaps
Yeah.
just see where we are. Like I would do the TNG movies with you. I just think we'd be a lot less positive about them, but there's obviously a lot to pick apart. I think in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the philosophy behind it, it might help you to have seen a little bit of TNG as well, just to get a little bit of the background and a feel for the characters. But I appreciate that's quite a big undertaking because there's a lot of content there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but to be fair, TNG is considered alongside several others like some of the best TV there is. So I'll probably have to see it at some point.
It is good
Um,
sci-fi.
As for Search for Spock, I mean, this should, I assume, be a very cold take. I don't think it's as good as Wrath of Khan.
Oh, you edgelord, you.
I
Uh,
know.
no, I
I
agree, and I think that is the general consensus among Star Trek fans.
I enjoyed the film, but I've got plenty of things I want to talk about. I don't know if it should be before or during with some of these, but lots of thoughts about. I'm actually curious from you as we go through it, how the fans sort of feel about some of the choices they made in this film. It's kind of funny in retrospect. I wouldn't mind listening again to what I would have said about Wrath of Khan, but let's just say to like how I was feeling before I started Search for Spock, I was like, it's impressive some of the things they did in terms of changing the status quo at the end of Wrath of Khan and what they introduce. And one might argue that Search for Spock just reset all of that by the time you hit the end of it.
Yes. I figured you would have an issue with this, and it's very understandably so that it undoes the big sacrifice at the end of Wrath of Khan. I mean, obviously the clue is in the name for this movie. Just to give you a little bit of context, I suppose, there's a kind of meta to this, which I think is quite interesting. So Leonard Nimoy had been quite keen to get away from Star Trek. I mean, they convinced him to come back to do Wrath of Khan, kind of for a payday, on the agreement that they would kill off Spock in the movie. And that was very much to his liking. He'd had quite a tough time during the making of the motion picture as well. He hadn't really enjoyed the process. So, for a lot of reasons, typecasting and so on, he was quite keen to get away from Star Trek, kill off the character, and move on with his career. What happened, though, is he actually had quite a good experience making Wrath of Khan. By all accounts, it was actually quite a harmonious production. He got on well with the director, and generally, it almost made him warm to the idea of
I'd have
staying
to
on as Spock.
imagine he would have experienced some good times with the movie coming out as well, because people would have nothing but good things to say probably about the film and the performances.
Indeed, yeah. And I think they got a sense of that because there's certain scenes that they added in post without his participation. So the scene at the end where you get the slow panning shot over the Genesis planet and the photon torpedo with his body inside it, that was added later. And I think also the scene where he mind melds with Dr. McCoy when he's unconscious and says, "Remember," that was done later, just so they could build in a little hook in case they wanted to bring him back. And so they were able to convince him to come back for this one. I think partly on the basis that he would get director's duties as well. And so that was another enticement for him. And they were able to convince him to come back. And so that's how we got this movie. And it's, yeah, as I say, for Star Trek fans, I think it's generally seen as inferior to Wrath of Khan, which is fair enough. It's definitely not as tightly focused character-wise, and it does retcon, or at least undo, quite a lot of the stuff that happens in Wrath of Khan. I've always had a real soft spot for it, and I think there's some individually fantastic sequences in this movie that I'm looking forward to watching with you and talking about. And even just if you're going to do this, if you're going to bring back a character that's already dead, I think taking an entire film to do it and having everyone else sacrifice a lot of things to get him back is a pretty good way of doing it. And again, we can talk more about that as we get through it. But I mean, overall, I probably like it more than a lot of people. And for me, it goes against this idea of the Star Trek curse, which is like this bit of urban myth, really, that all the odd-numbered movies are a bit shit and the even-numbered ones are the only good ones. It certainly holds true with Star Trek: The Final Frontier and to some extent the motion picture, but I think this one bucks the trend a little bit, and I think it's a slightly workman-like sequel, but I think it's got some great moments to it as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to talk about it as we go through.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Shall we start her up?
We should, yeah. So everyone at home, if you're going to do this with us, if you're going to watch it, I will have little moments of the movie sort of fade into the screen every so often, just so you can keep track of where we're at. But it's probably better if you've got a copy of the film ready to go. So fire up your VCRs, everyone, and get ready to press play. If we go on 3, 2, 1, go.
There we are.
Alrighty. And there's that lovely Paramount
Oh, this one's set
logo.
on Earth, eh?
It is, yeah. I like these old school logos. They just,
Yeah.
They're obviously a bit rough, but I think they've got just such a nice.
Oh, there's a charm
look to them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of the previously on, but
yeah, I think they didn't entirely trust that people wouldn't have seen the previous movies. They're like, we'll give them a really swift recap.
Which is interesting because this is like one of the most memorable things in all of Star Trek, right? Like
it is, yeah.
Moments.
As far as flashbacks go, you might as well start off strong.
Great example of a top tier sacrifice and excellent writing as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Like that scene just gets me every time. Even now, just watching this little flashbacky bit here. It just helps when you got such. I know people don't rate Shatner as an actor, but I think in this scene, he just absolutely knocks it out of the park. Gives what he needs to give.
I mean, I've always heard the thing of him doing weird deliveries and all this other stuff, but like I've been quite happy watching him in these movies, all three of them.
Yeah.
And then I see him in some other stuff. Like I think he was in Boston Legal, and he pops up with like cameos and different things. And I've always been like, he's a, he has a presence.
Oh, for sure, yeah, definite charisma.
Yeah, as you said though, it's like this ending. Its power is based somewhat, at least, in its finality / its consequence, and so you've got to be careful. The Because as you said, Leonard Nimoy is directing this one, and that's part of what drew him into the project. But that meant it's like, what happened to the director of Wrath of Khan? And from what I'm gathering, he refused because he thought that Spock's death should be final.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily blame him for that. It's a tough gig, but he did come back ultimately for the Undiscovered Country, which I would love to watch with you. I think there's a lot to talk about with that one. I legit love that movie.
Well, we're 3 out of 6, so
We're getting there.
getting there.
So, watching Final Frontier with you is going to be quite the experience, though.
I'm ready. Why did they shoot the pod off to Genesis? I'm trying to remember the end of Wrath of Khan.
I don't know if there was a specific reason for it. It was more just a burial in space, and
he sort of landed here, or
it just kind of got caught in the gravity and landed.
Because you already when I was watching this, I was like, oh, I guess that is going to be a bit of an excuse for why we can, a whole planet generating life. It's like, we can try and fit something in there.
Well, I love how they handle the Genesis planet as well in this, because again, that's a world-changing piece of technology that you got in the previous movie, a device that can make you a planet out of nothing. Essentially, like that should change the whole balance of power in the galaxy. And this movie kind of explains why it ultimately is a failure. And I think that's fine. It allows you to, again, go back to the status quo to some extent.
Yeah, it does. I think they realize, or at least the impression I get from the story in this is that they're like, man, this is incredible power. We should probably try and draw it back a bit. Even the interpretation from like other factions, of course, is going to be huge. They're essentially gods with something like that.
Yes. Yeah, because obviously if you were to use it on a planet that's populated, it will have the same effect. It's just going to wipe out everything that's there.
Though again, it is in a broad point of view. Is all going to be how it's done, but in a broad sense, it's like it's completely undone. Genesis as a idea and project by the end of this film is gone.
Yes. Yeah. I do like the character development then you get for David as Kirk's son, because he's portrayed as this brilliant scientist, but a man very much like his father who's willing to bend the rules and cut corners in order to accomplish his objectives. And
he manipulates it, right, and it makes it unstable. Was the implication that had he not done that it just wouldn't have worked at all?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he says himself, like, it was the only way to solve certain problems in the development process. So I think it just would never have been possible even to get this far without doing what he did. But yeah, it's the classic story of, like, science messing with things that they don't fully understand and taking chances and ultimately chaos and destruction resulting from it.
It's kind of funny to me that you have this, like, even credit like directed by Leonard Nimoy and the music editor, writer, whatever. It's just like this at some point would have been a listing that's like, these are the artists that are about to bring you what you're about to see. And it's like, wow. But these days with a lot of films, it's more, oh God, who did it this time?
Yeah. Who was roped into this disaster? Kirk there, a troubled man.
Yeah, it's a somber opening for the film, which is appropriate, obviously, because what'll be on your mind, certainly as a Star Trek fan, is just Spock's gone.
Yeah. It's interesting he should choose that phrasing, a house with all the children gone, because you get that impression for Kirk, like, the Enterprise is home.
Yeah.
It's not just a ship, it's like, it's his home. It's really how he defines himself.
I thought Uhura's role in this, I was wondering if there's any specific information on it, because she is notably missing from the crew that go to Genesis.
I don't think Nichelle Nichols was working on anything else that I know of. Yeah, it was maybe just to give her something different to do outside the rest, or maybe to cut down the number of like main characters that were on the Enterprise for the bulk of the adventure.
It's funny because I would probably half expect they actually do that because the fucking commanding officers always will be like, no, do it half the time. You're like,
Yeah, totally.
Okay, fine, I can.
There's a great episode of The Next Generation when Scotty actually makes an appearance, and he says something to that effect. It's like, always like when you're estimating your repair time or like whatever time it's going to take to do something, just times it by 2 because your captain's always going to demand more. And I just thought it was nice. It was like him passing on his experience to like a much younger engineer.
That's what they used to do back in the day, is pass the torch.
Yeah, I like that. But like still treat the older generation with a bit of respect and reverence. It was nice. I will say, like, Undiscovered Country does give you like a great passing of the torch and just like the old crew sailing off into the sunset finale for them. I think it's one of the most satisfying farewells I've seen.
Well, because I happen to know, like when I was bringing up the TNG movies, all I know is that the TNG movies are not well received, and it's a huge shame because isn't one of them? Is it Generations where you get Kirk and Picard together?
Oh yeah, this would have been like this would have been the thing for Star Trek fans. This was like the crossover of a lifetime, and it was so disappointing.
Such a shame. Yeah, it was funny because I knew Christopher Lloyd was in it. The second you hear that line, it's like, that's Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah. Actually, I really like him in this. I think he really plays this character with a lot of like oomph. You really believe that he's into this thing.
So this is the thing: as we go on, I'll try to gradually reveal more of my issues. But one of them is actually not at all his performance. It's more so, I really wish he were more, and maybe it's just the residue of Khan, but a character that's a bit more personal to Kirk.
Yes. Yeah, I get you. He definitely doesn't have the kind of charisma of Ricardo Montalban or just like the actual character of Khan. Like he's a bit of a generic villain.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Kirk never actually knows his name.
No, I don't think he does. No, he just calls him Klingon Commander.
Yeah, and I feel like there's opportunity to move things around to make it a bit more personal from earlier on, especially with the Grissom getting destroyed.
Yes, I think they could have done more with that for sure. I think I'm going to say the effects in this shot are really nice. Like, I don't get the feeling of like this crappy green screen.
The miniatures that are like, composited on, they always age better ultimately.
Yeah.
Even the oldest.
I always thought Krug was a little bit harsh in this one, like killing her. It's like you could have just brought her on board the ship.
Yeah, obviously it's to just show how ruthless he is, I suppose.
Yeah.
And efficient. I saw this shot and I was like, oh, they might make it. Oh.
Yeah. It's like minor damage? Nah, not so much.
I think they're done.
The Bird of Prey is a great ship, though. Like, it looks really cool. Yeah. It's really menacing.
You gotta love his little doggo, too.
Yeah.
This moment of, like, he's, like, terrified to feed it. I thought for a second there he was worried because it meant he had to feed himself to the dog.
Yeah. I love, like, with Klingons, even their dogs, like, look fucking horrific. And, like they could just rip your face off. This is the first appearance of the space dock in Star Trek, which it becomes, like, a bit of an iconic structure.
It's pretty cool looking.
Trek lore. Yeah.
And it makes a lot more sense that it would be this big. I'm sorry, it brings my mind to, like, the stupid ship Snoke has that's so big, there's, like, 1 million crew.
Oh, fuck off! Yeah,
Like this is a very important station that's going to be docking all kinds of ships all the time. Like that makes way more sense that it's such a a massive structure.
yeah, yeah.
And you can see at the top there's like a little city there.
Yep.
It
And
just that makes
again,
so much more sense to me.
there's more of the kind of ship porn that you get with Star Trek in these older movies, where it's just like the ships don't zip around like TIE fighters or something. Like it's quite slow and quite ponderous for them
Yeah,
to dock, and it's just a big deal, and it makes it
and
feel
I
all this
think
stuff feels significant.
the first movie it was a bit too much. They're still trying to find their right balance because we still want stuff like this.
Yeah. Is the Excelsior there?
Listen, okay, the Enterprise design is really hard to beat.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the Excelsior, but I think the
Yeah.
nacelles are a bit clunky looking on it.
It feels like whenever they have alterations to the base design, it's always just like, nah. Like I'd rather not.
Yeah. Yeah, this is again something that the Excelsior plays like a recurring role in like these older movies. Um, just in case you're wondering who that actress is, by the way, why the camera decides to focus in on her. She was in the original series.
Oh yeah.
Nurse Chapel, was it? Yeah, and like they never quite found a role for her in the movies, which is kind of a shame. But like they kept giving her little cameos and stuff, so that's why they gave her that scene there. I do
What's
like
after
Walter
that?
Koenig, but like sometimes he really tears the arse out of the Chekhov accent. This is not possible.
It's fun, damn it.
There is a great scene in the next movie where he's looking for a nuclear reactor that they can siphon energy off of, and he's like going up to people in the street, going, "I'm looking for nuclear vessels."
Wetzel.
Everyone's staring at him like he's an alien.
Those uniforms looking great.
Yeah, kind of an interesting look. Not quite sure what they're going for with the helmets there.
like football players or American football.
Yeah, things like this I sort of forgive to some extent because it's like these movies weren't done on huge budgets, and like
Well,
little things like
they're trying
that,
to
like
figure things
guys that
out,
you,
in there.
yeah, I mean things that you only see on screen for a few seconds, they probably didn't have much resources to play with there.
Well, I really like their main outfits.
Mm.
That's what you got to nail.
I love the sort of red tunics that they wear. I think they look great.
It's a bit creepy, isn't it?
Mm.
You gotta love Kirk. It's just like, who the fuck are you? Come on.
This just fucking grabs him. Quite possibly, yeah.
Look at that. Start up a mystery.
Mm. I love like DeForest Kelly. I just think he's a fantastic actor. I really like him, and I think he's great in this moment with the wide eyes, like just crazy eyes staring at Kirk.
I've always found him to be kind of the funniest one too.
He is, yeah. He definitely brings the levity to things. Like Spock's obviously the cold, pragmatic, logical one. Kirk's the sort of balanced guy, and yeah, he's the passionate, idealistic, and kind of sarcastic, cynical one at the same time.
Yeah.
He's brings some nice levity to things.
Well, it's a strong crew, and it's going to have inspired so many going forward, right? Like,
Yeah.
you want to have a bunch of different personalities.
Oh,
Tragic.
dear. Enterprise is going to get mothballed.
There's definitely a moment of like, I don't care how old it is, dude. It's super cool.
It's the Enterprise, man. This is actually a bit of an anachronism because I think if, according to the real chronology of Star Trek, the Enterprise is more like 45, 50 years old at this point. But yeah,
that Enterprise in the current state that it's in is 20 years. Okay, makes sense.
It did go through a big refit, and I think that's how people excuse this. It's like the refitted Enterprise is 20 years old, so even the
I'll tell you what,
modernized version is still quite old now.
When you have additions to canon that are really good, but they do actually make some mistakes, fans will find a way to slot it back in like a very good faith way. They'll be like, the character said this because of this reason. This. But you compare it to like a lot of the way that franchise has been handled these days, and fans have given up. They're just like, there's too many contradictions. They don't care. So there's no point.
I fucking lived for the day when this was the worst we had to deal with, like minor, like chronological discrepancies. Huh?
Yeah, or like on a screen, they don't have the correct codes or something. You'd be like, oh, it's a glitch. It's fine.
I still love this little graphic. They were so pleased with it that they reused it from Wrath of Khan, but it's nice. It's a shame they weren't able to get the actress back who played Kirk's former girlfriend.
Because there's a couple of recasts, right?
There is, yeah. You'll see Saavik was recast. I'll probably just talk about that now. Actually, I'll let it go until we see her.
Mm-hmm. I think Christopher Lloyd had mentioned that this along with his role in why am I forgetting the name of the film where they mix real life with cartoons? Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Bugs Bunny. Oh yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yeah.
His roles in this and that are like some of his favorites because he just likes being evil.
Yeah. It's interesting though, out of these two guys that he questioned there, like the guy he sends away is like the guy who's perhaps a little bit more forward thinking in his view of what Genesis is. You could use it to make planets, whereas this other guy here is much more like, it's just a weapon. We can blow up things with this.
Mm-hmm.
But it fits in quite nicely later because that guy ends up being the only one of the crew who survives.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Because you have to learn to be a real arse slicker if you're a Klingon, because like otherwise your captain will just fucking kill you.
Well, I did like that the one he does execute. There's good reason for it.
Yeah, very much like Vader when admirals fail him.
Just don't get me started, man. The amount of fucking movies they're like, so bad guys killing their own men makes them intimidating. It's like, no, that's not quite right. So yeah, something that struck me about this film, I think I was a little bit disappointed by, was that the Grissom's destruction is not really that impactful beyond the logistics of like the plot line. It's like emotionally speaking, nobody cares that much, which I thought was kind of absurd. Like as much as I'll buy, Saavik is at least half Vulcan, right? Or maybe full. I'm not sure anymore. Kirk's son, at the very least, should be like utterly floored by the fact that the Grissom's been destroyed.
I think it would have been quite easy to just have the captain of the Grissom be like Kirk's friend or something, or a recurring character maybe that gets killed off, and it's so that it just adds that personal dimension. But this is the first. Be that,
like they have them essentially. The plan is originally to hit their engines or whatever, right? To disable them.
Yeah,
and he says that he hit accidentally too accurately and it destroyed the whole ship. It's like, if he did disable them, it will kill many of the crew, then captured several of them and then executed them when Kirk wouldn't do what the Klingon wanted. I think that would have been a scene we could really generate a big old conflict.
Mm-hmm. I should probably say for the people that are watching this as well, this is our first sight of the new Saavik, played by Robin Curtis, I think. And just in case you're curious, I think the reason Kirstie Alley didn't come back was that she wanted too much money.
More money.
To appear again. And I think maybe she was a bit dissatisfied with the the role that she was going to get in this. So she just said, "No, I'm not doing it." So they just had to recast her. And to be fair, I think Robin Curtis does a perfectly fine job. You know, she's not as interesting maybe as Kirstie Alley's performance, but
isn't it so funny though that this is a quote unquote solution is something they would have done all the time in this day and age, but our day and age, they're like, oh, we'll find a way maybe to CG a face onto her, or we'll find a way to CG the whole thing, or maybe we'll. And it's just like, calm down. You feel like all your crazy new solutions will actually be better, but they're just worse.
Yep.
And I do like this as well, just the reestablishing of how this works. We're not crazy. We don't just beam shit up from the planet onto our ship.
Yeah. Look at those amazing graphics there. I do love the because it's not often you see them in civilian clothes, and when you do, it's like, oh, this was very 1980s vision of the future.
Yep, this is just guesswork at this point.
Yeah, Shatner is looking sharp there. I'm not gonna lie. I want that weird tracksuit thing that he's wearing.
Mm-hmm. Walter rocking that salmon-colored cardigan.
Ooh, who's this man? Mark Leonard, good actor.
Spork's father.
Spork. It's funny, he actually played a Romulan back in the original series, where it was almost like a replication of the Cruel Sea or the Enemy Below, where it was like the Enterprise versus a Romulan ship, and they couldn't see each other, so it was like they were firing blind. It was quite cool. They obviously liked the actor, though. They recast him as Spock's dad.
Yeah, it makes sense. Is this new sort of lore, or is this stuff that we knew about?
It's never really been tackled before, like the issue of like the Vulcans' beliefs in the afterlife and so on. So it doesn't really contradict anything as far as I know.
Because that was their challenge in writing this film. Is like, how do we get Spock back, though?
Yeah. So I don't think because he mentions like Spock's soul, his Katra. Yeah. I don't think I'd ever heard that mentioned before, but like I don't exactly have an encyclopedic knowledge of the original series.
So Spock's intention when passing it to Bones was simply for like a cultural thing of being laid to rest correctly in his like home world, is it? And that Genesis allowed him to come back to life.
I think what they're implying here is that you can almost transfer your sum total of everything you've experienced, like your essence, I guess, of who you were, or the life that you lived, into another person, and they could then like deposit that on Vulcan somehow, or have it purged from them, and that would put you at rest. But obviously, Genesis allows his physical form to come back, and so you can transfer into that. It's like an empty vessel that you could pour his soul back into.
Which, like I said, is a difficult challenge, and I think they did decent enough in terms of mechanics. Then comes how much of a cost.
What I like is it doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel like you're suddenly getting bombarded with a bunch of stuff, which is like J.J. Abrams style. Like, we'll just hit you with a bunch of info and then move on to the next thing so you don't think too much about it. It's like very slowly unfolds all these different elements that has to come, all the different pieces that have to come together. Yeah,
and it is a companion piece to the second film, right? Like the first film is on its own, and then there's two. Yeah. It seems to me as 2 and 3 are together.
Well, 2, 3, and 4 are all together, really. They form like a kind of trilogy.
Yeah, because I read that if Spock hadn't like died in Star Trek 2, the story was going to run that Spock and Kirk would have to go to Genesis to fight. Is it Krug or Kruger?
Krug.
Just Krug. for the sake of like all the Genesis sort of plot lines. So it looked like they had some level of plans to keep all of it going, like right, like do a movie, but then also leave it open to keep continuing.
Yeah.
And yeah, because this was something I was very curious about. When he starts going through the sort of footage, I was like, oh yeah, he does knock out Bones, and that's an excuse of someone he has touched. But then there's that extra bit of him saying "remember," and I was like, they must have re-recorded for that, right? Because I don't even remember if that was in the film.
No,
or not.
that was in the original movie.
So that's when because you were saying like they would have then been like, we need to add some bits.
Yeah, and so I don't think they had a fully developed plan. It was more just like, we're going to build in a potential hook, so that if this movie's really successful and Leonard Nimoy wants to come back, we've got an option there. And thank God they did, really, because
good work.
It doesn't feel like this doesn't feel completely forced or anything. Like, it definitely requires a little bit of generosity on the part of the audience, but I don't feel like it ruins anything.
These security cameras, they're suspiciously similar to the movie.
They are. They're very cinematic, aren't they? And again, like they obviously they could have recorded it again from like a a really high angle or whatever, but it would have looked a bit shit. And maybe they just didn't have the resources to do it.
Loads of my favorite is when there are photos of characters, like loved ones in sets, and they're all from episodes. It's like, what? Screenshots of episodes.
Just screen grab, yeah.
Oh, dude, one of my favorite parts of this is when Bones tries to do the nerve thing.
Yeah,
that shit's so funny.
Do it. Because it's generally not a very humorous movie. Obviously, it doesn't have too many moments of levity, but like what you do get is usually from Bones.
So you're saying that the odd numbers are considered the off ones? What is the reputation of Search for Spock, out of curiosity?
It's seen as like a fairly I think I've described it before as a fairly workman-like sequel that kind of does what it needs to do, but just if it probably got judged really harshly in relation to Wrath of Khan.
Oh yeah, that's a difficult follow-up.
That was it was a pretty high bar, and for that reason, it's just seen as like a bit meh. But yeah, I think it did pretty well financially. It certainly was more than enough to greenlight another movie. So
yeah, because workman's probably the best way to put the fact that this is almost safe. It is. Because watching it, I couldn't imagine fans would be angry with this film. I wouldn't see any reason for that.
To be fair, there's some things that happen in this movie where I would say like, okay, that's not safe. Like, you destroy the Enterprise, you kill David. Like, that's big stuff. Pretty big changes.
We'll get there, but I feel like both of those payoffs could have been handled better. Because I've heard that destroying the Enterprise is considered controversial in this film. Like,
no, I'm fully on board with destroying it. I mean, I hate that it happened, because I really like that shit.
That's the funny thing.
I get why
I am fully on board with doing stuff like that. I love my big, bold, and tragic decisions. I'm not a huge fan of how it happens mechanically, or the decision that's made anyway. I think it's curious she's asking that question, considering everything she knows about Genesis.
Well, I know, but like, I think the idea that things would evolve so rapidly, like almost like everything's being accelerated, is not part of the Genesis plan, or it's not how the device is supposed to function. And so it's the first little hint that maybe something's not quite right about this place. Because obviously, like the idea behind Genesis is that you fire it off to like an uninhabited moon or something, you get yourself a ready-made planet, and then that's it. You can just move in and it's safe for you. But if it was to do things to any life forms on it, like they start evolving or whatever, that's very undesirable, obviously.
Dude, that outfit as well. It looks so comfy.
I love the Admiral's outfit. It looks fucking badass. Like, that's his off-duty stuff as well. It's like a velvet couch or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
Made
yeah.
into a suit.
I do wonder about Jim's reputation at this point, that if anyone of a higher level says no to him, they should probably be watching him after that.
Yeah. I will say, right, like this reputation that Kirk has for being like insubordinate and just like a real hotshot and stuff, like it's almost like the meme rather than the reality. Like the Kirk from the original series wasn't really like that. He was quite into protocol and stuff, and he only bent the rules in exceptional circumstances. And even here, like he's quite thoughtful about when and where he disobeys orders. Like he's not a guy who just really takes pleasure in fucking up his career.
The word is no, and therefore I'm going anyway.
It's interesting, the outfit that Shatner's wearing there. Apparently, Nimoy picked it out himself because, like, he wanted to make sure he didn't wear a girdle or anything, and it would force Shatner to stay in shape. I'm not entirely sure how that game functions, like the biplanes fighting each other, because it's a pretty limited gaming area you got there.
I'm sure it makes complete sense once you know the rules.
I just love the like things like this. Like it's so goofy, like the setup and stuff, like the set dressing, but I like it.
She's got with the lights. No, yeah, I like
so
it.
Charming.
Make it look different, but the attempts to do stuff like this throughout the eras is so interesting to compare, because it just makes you think about what the set designers were thinking about at the time.
Yeah. This guy's got a bit of a Yoda thing going on with his his speech patterns.
Very attractive gentleman.
I mean, I've dated worse, to be fair. I'm from Scotland.
I figured this guy was Scottish, man. Yeah.
Nah, he's got too many teeth.
He's the way he speaks is too coherent.
Yeah. So here, yeah, Bones is trying to parlay his own passage to the Genesis system. It's like he feels compelled to go there, I guess, without even really knowing why.
Yeah, because he sort of drifts in and out of Spock having more influence on him, right, as the film goes on. What is his line where he's like, Spock's just mad I won all the arguments or whatever?
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's quite cool as well. Like, there's a bit of consequence here where, like, the Mutara system where the Genesis planet exists has all been sealed off now. Nobody can go there. And it's just like, that's already filtered through to, like, the traders and the smugglers and everything. They know that you can't get there easily.
Mm-hmm. I like the attitude of this guy as well. He comes across as like, what you're saying is not cool. Maybe don't say it.
Yep. It's kind of it's kind of cool. Like Starfleet's got its own security service, and it's like they're just watching the conversations that people have just to make sure they don't say the wrong thing.
Well, yeah, and he's like, this guy's portrayed as more of a he's not like a complete asshole.
No.
There you go.
Yeah. The look on his face as well, like he's really trying. He believes it's gonna work. It's good stuff.
Like they could have had him be like, "So what's going on here?" Then beat him up or something. But
yeah, again, like, why is there snow happening in a desert? That all seems a bit odd for a planet such as this.
Yeah, they got like a collection of biomes that are way too close to each other, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a little bit wacky.
I want a leather jacket like Kirk's one there. Epic.
I find this fun, by the way, that they would light it up and then turn it down, light it back up. Like they don't need to show like a blue CG screen.
Yeah, it's like we get it. Saves a bit of money.
Yeah, I consider it less is more sometimes. It's his revenge. Green-blooded son of a bitch. So much style in this movie, huh? So this is something that I read about that I thought was really funny. George Takei was like
is it the tiny comment?
Yeah. He was like pushed back on being called tiny, and then he saw people's reaction to this scene and they really liked it. He was like, "Oh, okay then." Like, it's just so ego driven to me. It's so funny. It's like, oh, you can't see how this is fun for your character that you get to beat the guy who called you tiny.
Yeah, he wasn't getting it at all.
Well, because he's someone that wanted more, like to be ranked up, right? Like wants his own ship and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, well, he fucking hated Shatner. Like, they increasingly did not get along with each other, and that's why towards the end, like, he's actually on a completely different ship. So they didn't have to share a scene together.
Damn. Do we know why that was? Like, was it just disagreements creatively, or was it more
just
politically?
Egos, really? Like, I mean, like everyone knows Shatner's got a big ego, and like he felt like Shatner would hog scenes. He would like pull the limelight onto himself. He wouldn't give other people a chance. And I think particularly Sulu and Chekhov as characters didn't get a huge amount to do in any of the movies, really. And a lot of that was down to Shatner, apparently.
I will say, I kind of was hoping for more from the rest of the cast in this. Like, I realized when I'd finished it that this feels much more like Kirk's movie.
It very much is, yeah, and it's about what he sacrifices. But I do get like I like this moment here for Uhura where she gets to be a bit of a badass.
I am inclined to agree, though I had no idea this was going to be essentially that this is kind of it for her. We do see her again, but briefly.
She gets a bit more to do in the fourth movie, but it is a shame because I really like Nichelle Nichols, and apparently she was a fucking awesome person. And yeah, I feel like she was always a bit underused in the movies. I would have liked to have seen just an arc for Uhura. She was always just a person that was just kind of there doing her job.
So this is something that actually threw me off. Ultimately, was I thought it was a great idea to have it be that they're sneaking in and essentially stealing the Enterprise, but that means they don't have a crew. And so I thought, oh, that's a really interesting way to do it. So that means there's going to be way more jobs to split between them, and it's going to be way more difficult to run the full ship. But I didn't feel like we really took advantage of that at all.
No, well, you'll remember, like Scotty mentioned the automation system when they were approaching space dock, and it's like, well, it's basically a computer system that can run the ship for them to some extent, or at least in a simple way. And that's what allows them to like have a crew of like 4 people pilot a starship, you know.
Which is, like, I'm with you, and then it gets damaged, and I was like, so now we're going to be getting not necessarily them all running around, but at least the stress of all of them having much more. Pressure.
Yeah, it gives out altogether, and I totally get like how when they try to use the weapons and stuff, Scotty's just like, no, this isn't what I made it for. Like it can't handle this kind of demands put on it.
Yeah, which is definitely their way of trying to write around. Like they have the Klingons by the balls at that scene, so it's like we need to nerf the Enterprise a bit.
Yeah,
right now. Yeah, I think I was hoping that would give opportunity for a lot of them to do things and to maybe even fail different parts of the ship. Like the way they're defeated, so to speak, I feel like there was a really good opportunity to make it so that the lack of crew costs them the fight.
Yeah, I mean, what would you have done? Would you have had the battle go on for longer?
So I think if they exchange shots, we lose the automation, and so then each of the people here have to take on some extreme level of duties, and we have a bit of a back and forth until they all just start being overwhelmed and they can't possibly do it. The ship gets like big pieces taken out of it.
I do like the idea of James Doohan having to run down to engineering.
Yeah, that's the only. I'm not even kidding. That's genuinely the only thing I can think of that would ruin it is the fact that these guys are not young. I don't want to put them in a position where they have to fucking sprint around or anything. So it would probably be like keep them at their consoles so that but it's just a matter of a lot of work they have to do.
Yeah. This is legit one of my favorite sequences in the whole movie. Like it's so the music, the pacing of it, the different components of like the Excelsior pursuing them and stuff. So well done.
And yeah, even first time through, I was like, that's Scotty. He's sabotaged them. There's no way.
Yeah,
he's a smart boy. And we got that one shot earlier where he was exiting the Excelsior. I was like, oh, you've tooled around with them. You've done something. Yeah,
you've been messing with this. Again, like I love just this look because it's like the Enterprise is going out in reverse and it just looks weird and like quite awkward and cumbersome. But that's what it is to move a starship. Like these things weigh like fucking 500,000 tons each. Like it's a lot of metal to move around, and you get a sense of that with this. I will say, like, this set is not great.
It feels rushed a bit, but that's okay because this is the only time we really see it.
Exactly, yeah.
I recognize that actor as well, the one at the console there.
Well, he was in RoboCop.
Ah, yes.
And he was in Hot Shots Part 2 as well, which I love him in.
I rewatched Hot Rod recently. I was losing my mind.
Hot Rod's fantastic.
So fucking funny.
It was so good. I love this bit. He's like, yeah, I'm working on it. Give me a minute.
Space Doors. Good name.
Yeah. Because you get the feeling like, oh shit, this ship could just slam right into them and that's it. That's their escape plan fucked. Yeah. And even now when it's opening, it's like, well, they still might not clear them in time because they're still moving towards it.
Give you a bit of tension.
Yeah. You can see Scotty like, oh shit, are we going to make this one? Oh, it's going to be tight. Like, I feel if this shot was done today, it would have it scraping through the doors and like there would be bits falling off it and stuff.
Well, the music would be going crazy and the editing would probably be really, really like snapping everywhere.
Yeah, like look how slow the ships move. But like I say, you just feel the size and inertia of them.
I'm still learning my Star Trek. Impulse power is like normal flight, right?
Yeah, like sublight engines, basically.
Yeah. Because they have a transwarp drive.
They've got transwarp, yeah, which is like is really, really fast warp.
Only if it works.
Yeah.
Something that was crazy is when I was watching this, I was like, holy shit, we're halfway through.
Yep. I'd like, yeah, not a huge amount has happened, really, like action-wise. I like how he only hesitates for a moment there. And I think it's just such a significant scene as well. Like, this is you throwing your career away right now if you don't stand down. And just goes for it.
Yeah, and this captain comes across as quite normal as well in terms of just like the stakes are pretty low for him. It's just like, yeah, we'll chase him, we'll get him, and he knows he's doing it's going to destroy his career. That's what that is. And then you see that transwarp isn't very fast at all, actually.
I could probably have done without the like clunky car engine breaking down sounds. Yeah, it's like I don't think spaceships would make that.
How are the audience gonna know?
What the fuck?
Well, so something I was thinking about, of course, by this point, I was like, this is going to have I mean, what's gonna happen when Scotty comes back? They're gonna be like, "You sabotaged our fucking ship, buddy."
Yeah, well, they do have to answer for that, or for everything that they've done, really, in the following movie.
Ah.
So again, it's all referenced. Like, it actually keeps a pretty good continuity, which I just love.
Well, that's what I'm saying, man.
And franchises actually cared about what happened before. It was
the
just
people who
so
made these
satisfying.
fucking things used to care about it as much as we did. I stand by it forever. It's not supposed to be an annoying thing. It's supposed to be a thing that if you pay attention to it, gives you opportunities as well.
Mm-hmm.
Setups and payoffs can write themselves if you just remember what you had happen before.
Yep. And if you stop relentlessly trying to go back and retcon shit or like work around past events, just move forward with your story. Then it's so much easier to keep the continuity. That's a really weird noise.
Hmm.
I will say, considering this was all done on a soundstage, it's actually not too bad looking.
The only thing I think is I would have liked the two of them, if possible, to feel like they're colder.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, they've kind of got their collars turned up and stuff, but like, there's not much more you can do, really.
One of the things they didn't do, which a lot of movies do, is they put a bit of frost on their like eyebrows and put a bit of pink on their cheeks. You know,
That's true. Yeah.
I kind of like as well. They're both like, "Is this Spock? Like, what the fuck?"
So again, I love they don't waste too much time, like, because they know where the audience's minds are going to go with this. So it's not like we're going to beat around the bush with this one.
Like I said, I find this acceptable mechanically. It's you know how people would say like never do multiverse, do everything you can to avoid time travel.
Yeah.
When we start going tier down and down and down, there is a rule of thumb of like try not to resurrect your characters ever.
Yes.
Try, but if you do it, there are a couple of advisable formats for it. And I would say this one is good to learn from in terms of the big things are make it something that's very difficult, very unlikely, and has a cost. Don't let it be something
the
that
cost
just
is the key element for me. Whereas like this isn't necessarily a happy ending for everyone in this movie. Far from it.
Something really funny I'd read about as well, that Christopher Lloyd didn't understand communicators, and so he would be shouting his lines without realizing like the idea is that you're talking into like a phone. And he was on the Genesis planet, he'd be shouting as though the ship would be able to hear him if he just shouted loud enough.
Oh, bless you, Christopher.
And apparently he had to be told to stop yelling at the sky. Yeah, I just find that so funny because to us we're just like, that's easy to understand straight away, but I could see like an actor who's just so unfamiliar with the ship being like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
like,
he would have been from a very different generation. We'd have done all this sci-fi stuff. And
lucky
that's
to still
the end
have
of the
him.
Grissom. God.
Yeah, so this was a bit of a turning point in the film for me. I was fucking shocked. I was like, we just wiped them all out? And then of course him saying he wiped it out almost by accident, essentially. Like he'd missed the shot, so it hit it at a core position and blew up the whole thing. Which told me, I was like, so the writer really wanted to get rid of the Grissom then, because it was even difficult to justify it from the point of view of the Klingons just destroying it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because they'd want to take advantage of it. It's next to the Genesis. It's the research vessel that's going to know the most about the Genesis. So,
yeah, and I think it's fine from the point of view of like believability
that
and stuff. Like
reaction.
sometimes unfortunate things like that do happen, and it puts the Klingons up against it now as well, because it's like, well, they've lost their best lead, and so
I guess what I'm saying isn't that it's an impossibility or anything. It's just it seems like a lack of taking advantage of a lot of things from a writing standpoint. And again, Kirk's son's reaction there, being told the Grissom's been destroyed in an attack, and he looks up and he's like, And it's like that's your reaction to that. Like, I don't know.
I mean, like, because they hadn't spent any time with the people in the Grissom, so it's not like he had a personal connection to them, but connection to them.
I
But
mean,
it's
I
more
feel like you would have more of an emotional reaction to the Grissom being destroyed.
purely from the point of view of like, oh my god, our only ride out of here has just been blown up. So yeah, we're kind of fucked now.
Well, there's that, but there's also just the respect you have for your co-workers. They're all a bunch of innocent people that have just been killed. You know.
Yeah. I really feel with this one they wanted to keep it as simple and streamlined as possible and keep the narrative focus on Kirk and
which
Spock,
is curious,
and yeah,
because as we talked about before already, it's just like if you want to do that, which I'm totally on board with, especially with the reduction in crew and everything, the villain needs to be more personal. Just get him sorted.
I definitely agree. That is an issue with this movie that I feel like they could have worked around, and they could have found ways to make him more connected to Kirk. Nice little callback there to the Kobayashi Maru from Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great little insight into David's character. I think that he's got that element of his father in him. He's willing to bend the rules to get ahead and accomplish something. And ultimately, he's striving for like a great ideal. This idea of the Genesis device that can create whole planets for you. It's a fantastic thing. It's a fantastic piece of technology, and he's willing to risk a lot for it.
This was a bit wacky. Like he just
I'm not sure why he picks one up. It's like I don't feel like this is your priority right now, sir.
When it started wrapping around him, I was like, "Oh God, Prometheus! Like it's gonna get him."
And he's like, "No, I got this one." It's so fucking slimy and disgusting. Like,
yeah, it's evolved microbes, right?
Yeah, that's all it is. You notice that the vegetation around them is kind of dying now. It looks like kind of, I don't know, like spindly, and like everything's just getting a bit withered.
Yeah, friggin' Mustafa's going to open up on this planet soon enough.
Yeah, this is David's last sunset. I always felt like that was a significant moment, that like him standing there witnessing that. Like this is a man witnessing his creation slowly destroying itself.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the thing. I kind of wish there was more time given to stuff like that. I would have appreciated a few more scenes of getting into the heads of some of these people.
I think you could have definitely squeezed an extra like 15, 20 minutes into this movie that would have given us more of this, because it's not a long film. It's well under 2 hours.
Well, it felt to me a lot less grand than Wrath of Khan. Much more like Wrath of Khan's DLC. Not that it's not a film in and of itself, absolutely, but that the journey feels like tying off loose ends rather than telling a full story to me. So we got to go back and sort out the Genesis stuff because it's not resolved. And of course, the enemy being like, it's just I don't mean to say just a Klingon, but I mean it is a guy who's in a ship who's like, I'm interested in Genesis. Like, okay,
yeah. I suppose there's only so many like enemies from Kirk's past that you can bring back before it starts to seem a bit hackneyed.
That's the problem with someone like a J.J. Abrams, where they're like, "Oh, I know how to do that." You're like, "No, you don't actually have to."
You don't know how to do anything, J.J. Stop doing things.
Because I'm completely with you. It's like if we made, it's like, oh, it's gonna be the brother of Bob, and he's like, no, we do need to find another way of doing this.
I'm so fucking happy that JJ's essentially self-destructed his career, and he's basically not doing anything anymore.
There's a few other creatives I kind of wish that, but we'll get there. It's fine. That is not a good film to take your break from directing on. You know, Rise of Skywalker. You need to have left on a better note than that. That's a funny way to put it.
Now, this is an interesting scene, and I can shed some light on this if it helps.
Okay.
So, like, he's suffering from this thing called Ponfar, which is like what Vulcan males go through, and it's like the overwhelming need to fuck. Basically, it's puberty for them.
We've all been through it.
We have indeed, yeah. So as far as I understand it, the original draft of the script would just have legit had them fuck in here, because she had to take one for the team, but they realized fairly quickly that they weren't going to get that. It wasn't going to fly in a Star Trek movie, and they were gonna lose their age rating and stuff if they had to do something like that. So they had to do this shitty fingering thing instead. And I think it's such strange. A shame because I legit think that could have worked so much better if they'd gone with the original idea. I think it could have been done tastefully, and I think it would have said a lot about Saavik as a character that she was willing to do that. You know, for this guy that like she's doesn't know because he's basically an empty vessel, like to save his life essentially. I think that could have been really well done, but it's a shame.
And it makes me think it's like if we just cut that from being something that Spock's growing vessel needs to deal with in the first place. Is that new, or is that a part of something we knew already?
Nah, I think it's kind of a new thing.
Because if you lose that, we can make room for some other bits.
Yeah. This is my other favorite sequence of the movie. Like when it comes to tension building, I think this just does fantastic job.
Yeah, it's a matter of whether or not they can spot them and assume what's going on through the distortion in time before they are attacked.
So a rule that exists within Star Trek is like if a Klingon bird of prey is cloaked, it can't fire. So it can sneak up on you, but if it's going to fire on you, it has to decloak before it can do it because it has to use all of its energy just to maintain the cloaking device.
Vessel.
This all ties up neatly. So they think they're hailing Grissom.
Yeah.
And that includes the Klingons in that it's actually the Enterprise with Kirk on board.
And the message also comes down here as well.
Yep. No more fingering for you, Spock.
No, sir.
Apparently, Edward James Olmos was the original casting choice for Krug.
What do you reckon? Better or worse?
Well, he was cut eventually because he was too short, and he wasn't physically intimidating enough. So they put Christopher Lloyd in instead. So he was brought in fairly late in the game. It's just weird that this is Doc Brown.
Yeah.
Because like I say, I think he does a good job in the role. Like he's fairly menacing. He's fairly into it.
Well, it does feel like there's not any lengths he doesn't go to.
This did seem a bit odd. It's like I think at this point you would have to conclude that the Grissom is not there anymore. Like if they've tried this hard to hail them and they're not responding, they're probably gone.
It'd be pretty odd if the Grissom was hiding from you. Yeah, like
Kind of lucky that
like,
they had
don't
that
blow them
re-recorded
up.
version of the Genesis device tape that had Kirk on it instead of like the original scientist. Because otherwise he probably wouldn't know who Kirk was.
Yeah. Again, like I was saying, there's just tweaks to be made. This film is solid. It's just like I would prefer other directions taken. Did get a sense there. He's like, if you fuckers do anything that I don't say, I swear to God.
Yeah, I just love how his eyes dart around the room when he says that. Like, I'm watching all of you guys. If anyone fires before I say so. I really wouldn't want to be that gunner. So, you know, someone else can take over for me on this one.
Oh man, I need to go to the toilet. Someone else go.
Yeah, Dave can do it. He's really good at gunning. It's really a game of bluffing right here. Because if they raise their shields, the Klingons will know they've been clued into them.
And yeah, of course, if the Enterprise were capable of firing again and again and again, this is just over.
Yep. But again, like, there's nobody there to load more torpedoes into the torpedo base. It's like, well, that's all we got. I mean, hopefully that's enough. Oh no, the doggo's dead.
And that's how we can, like I said, nerf us back down a bit.
Yep. And for me, I'm okay with this. It's like you've established the automated system can only do so much, and you know, when you're asking it to like fire the weapons and raise the shields, it's like too much for it, and now it's just the ship's just taking a hit, so it's probably knocked it out.
I think I would have appreciated the line earlier, as in Kirk being like, you know, just be honest, like brass belts, be honest with me, Scott. What am I capable of here? And he's like, you know, in terms of travel, we're good to go, but you better not be taking this thing into any kind of war zone. Just something like that. It'd be like, because saying it right before to it just feels a little bit like, all right, okay, yeah, I guess.
I think it was just because that would have been very obvious foreshadowing. It's like, okay, well, they're probably going to get into combat and they're probably going to be overwhelmed. Because
we already knew they would be heading into combat because of the fact that they were there anyway. So it's like telling us the capabilities of it before we get. You could argue that could create more tension knowing they're weaker going in.
Kirk just trying to bluff his way out of this one.
Yeah. Well, I actually quite like the response of like, you fuckers have broken the thing with whatever the hell this weapon is.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? Because it's like he's really got nothing to go on here. It's just like, gut instinct. He's probably bluffing.
I think it is because he says like it's really curious they haven't destroyed us. What's going on? Something weird's happening. And he does seem like a particularly aggressive character, so it is a bit of a gamble. But you can tell he's curious.
Oh, he's kind of got nothing to lose, really, has he?
And yeah, he can leverage the prisoners as well. And like I said, if you move the Ryan around a bit, this could have been something he could have played at them had Kirk had all the weapon systems operational. If he threatened, like, I will destroy you, and he's like, you destroy me, all 3 of our hostages die.
I mean, I kind of like the fact that Kirk is like really up against it with like no options. Basically, I can't fight him with my ship. They've got hostages down there. Like, what do I have left? And it's like, well, the only thing I've got is like fucking destroy the entire ship and try and take out as many of them as possible, and just hope that we can get to the people on the ground and rescue them. I mean, it's like proper desperation time for him.
So destroying the ship, I would have appreciated if the Klingons had torn the Enterprise apart for the most part to the point where they knew their last choice was to leave it. Because as it stands, they actually established that there's not going to be many people in the boarding party, and that between the crew we have here, I feel like they could have killed them all.
No, I don't know. The Klingons are quite like combat is really what Klingons are good at. Like they've got better weapons and like they just love that shit.
Well,
So,
yeah, but they
as much as Kirk might be determined to like take him on, like him and like a bunch of middle-aged guys are not going to take on a Klingon.
Well, they have
boarding
phases,
party, I don't
right?
think.
And they know that when they arrive, they know which way with the teleporter room. Like they would just shoot them in the back.
True. Or they could fuck with the teleporters and just teleport them into the fucking core of the planet or something, I suppose. Theoretically.
It's just that they establish how weak the Force is going to be, and then he even apologizes for the crew getting destroyed. But of course, I figure the Enterprise is a very strong weapon. Was what was happening there? Was the guy almost going to kill Savick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just a fight he wasn't going to win.
Yeah. And that's what Klingons are all about. You're not going to overpower one of them very easily. And I must admit, I like how just short and brutal it is. Like David's just fucking knifed in the gut and he's dead. Like there's no like somber musical score or anything. It's just he's fucking dead. And that's it. Silence.
And apparently to this day, nobody knows if he meant to miss the chair or not.
I like that he did, whether he meant it or not.
Oh, it's great. It's again, this is one of the examples of I don't understand why you'd say he's not a good actor. I believe this.
I love Scotty's reaction here as well. Like that look on his face is so good.
And so, like, my commentary for this is just I've now seen everything that was to do with Kirk and his son, right? It was mainly in Wrath of Khan. I don't know how we do it exactly, but I would have probably liked for them to have at least had 1 or 2 conversations before he had died to make this hit particularly hard.
Okay.
Because there's just a little bit of a disconnect, because I'm almost as a viewer like, right, yeah, that is his son. Damn. And they never really got to have a relationship, really.
I guess you can look at it 2 ways. Like, yeah, I totally see your point. Of like, it might be nice to have a better connection between the two. But also, like, this David represents like the path not taken. Like, he barely even got a chance to know this son that he'd sired, and like suddenly he's been taken away from him. And there's that tragedy of just never even having really gotten time with him.
I think you can maintain that while also giving them 1 or 2 scenes. You could even make that a part of the conversations they have. Not to make it too cliche, but they could obviously be like, we're going to get through this. And when we do, you and I, we need to, it would be better dialogue than this, but go on some adventures ourselves.
We'll hang out at that weird bar and we'll play that biplane game.
And that's the thing. There are so many tricks you can play when you have someone beaming to you where you know. Arguably, you could just have a explosive in the teleporter room as opposed to blowing up the whole ship.
Mm.
I like this as well. How procedural and this feels right for what it would require to self-destruct.
Yeah, like doing this is a big deal, and like you got to make sure that like nobody just does this by accident or whatever. And you know what I was going to say, and this really carries throughout the film, but like at this particular moment as well, like how bad I felt that the fact that the Enterprise was getting blown up. Like I really think it's important to the movie, but at the same time, this all throughout the films and the TV show and everything, like it really establishes the Enterprise as something that Kirk has a bond with. Like it's not just a big chunk of metal for him and for the audience; it's almost like a character unto itself. And I compare that to the J.J. Abrams movies where the Enterprise fucking gets blown to pieces in like every movie. And I just didn't care one bit about it. It was just some flashy looking piece of CGI nonsense that just keeps getting blown up. And I don't care. Here, I felt sad very
seriously. While in those, it's like indulging in just, it's almost like tragedy for fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, this, like I told you, I don't take any issue with the notion of destroying the ship, down to smithereens, like literally into pieces that can't even be possibly recognized. I just, it's all going to be about how and why. And I didn't quite feel that we were at the point of direct desperation. I think, honestly, the easiest change I would make is just that the Klingons shredded their ship a bit to the point where one of the I don't know the actual names for it, but like one of the thrusters had come off and all
the
systems were
nacelles
disabled. Yeah,
the warp nacelles.
They were absolutely like, there's just no other move to make. Because like it's not in terrible shape right now.
Yeah, it's more just like there's no crew to operate it and the automation system is knocked out.
This part made me laugh though, where he's like, there is a noise. He's like, what's the noise? It's like 9, 8, 7, 6. And he's like, oh shit.
And it's like, well, they're speaking in English for our benefit, but I presume they're talking actually in Klingon.
And I guess he recognizes that it's a countdown, but the others don't.
Yeah, but they don't speak English, I suppose.
Yeah.
See, they can. It is actually possible to beam back to their ship without having to go to the transporter room. It's called like site to site beaming, but it's like a bit more risky. Mm-hmm. But I think in this situation, I'd probably go for it.
Well, I'll have you know that you can beam people while they're falling through the sky in
oh, fuck those movies. Trek. Just don't mention them. Don't mention them at a time like this, especially when we're watching good stuff.
Yeah, well, when it showed the initial explosion, it was once again like, it might be okay. There was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
it goes. And then it enters the atmosphere. Drop. What a beautiful shot, though. You've got to admit, that looks nice.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very, very dramatically poignant.
What have I done?
Dying ship on a dying planet. Good epitaph for Kirk, though.
That's the thing, right? It's you have to try and figure out how many stories there are to tell and when to end. It's kind of funny in retrospect. I imagine you'd be able to pick a good stopping point now, knowing exactly what happened. But I imagine it's not generations for Kirk.
Yeah, like Undiscovered Country would have been the perfect send-off for him. I would have been really happy if that was the last I ever saw of him. Much as I would have liked to have seen more, because Shatner's apparently immortal. But yeah, that would have been a nice way to end it. Because I think if you ever get a chance to see it with me, like you'll appreciate like just a good send-off to the original crew.
It's the crazy reality of sort of modern Star Trek minds. They keep him out of it. It's just bizarre.
Oh yeah, like Shatner's been talking about this on Twitter.
It's just
Like,
rude.
why do I
Fucking rude.
never? Why do I never get put in any of the posters or anything? It's like, yeah, they fucking hate him. It's like he's the best thing that ever was in Star Trek.
Well, and it's funny, right? Because the more they touch like Picard, the less he's, I guess, going to command as much reverence.
The more they touch him, the more dirty he becomes.
The more fingerprint.
I like how even the Klingons like, what the fuck is going on here?
This is something humans do.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't sign up for this shit. What the fuck?
Yeah, and it's like Klingons are tough, but they ain't beating a phaser.
Yeah. It's good. Like sometimes phasers can vaporize you, other times they'll just like knock you over the set. Who knows?
Well, I mean, I'm not a super Star Trek guy, but don't they have like settings for how powerful or no?
Yeah, you got like a stun setting, but like I think in a situation like that, I'd probably just like shoot to kill, really.
Yeah, let's not risk anything.
Again, I like this here. It's not like a big, over melodramatic scene. It's pretty quick.
But it is something that I was curious about in terms of like fan stuff. It's like that he was introduced, and it's a big deal. Now he's cut out. You know?
Yeah.
It's
What, like, how do people feel about David as a character?
It's the film kind of. One could feel it's like, wow, Genesis is incredible. The death of Spock, that's an insane change. Oh, Kirk has a son. Wow. And then after the end of the next film, it's like all of those things are undone.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure like what the overall fan perception of it is. Like I felt like almost like as a piece of dramatic balance, I think it's nice that like Kirk had to sacrifice his son in order for Spock to come back. Like, well,
So
everything
that
really.
I have a feeling is certainly from what you said earlier that was something that you felt. I'm not sure I'm convinced by that, and it's mainly I would have liked that we could tie better. Basically, it seems like he would have died whether or not the search for Spock was happening.
Well, they wouldn't have had that. Well, no, because they wouldn't have threatened the hostages with execution if Kirk hadn't been there. So,
well, my presumption is that once they'd served their usefulness, they would have been killed.
I mean, probably, yeah.
And so I feel like if we did tweak it all around so that we do get, Kirk and they get to have a few scenes, and then Kirk has the upper hand on the Klingons, and they can wedge it out by having his son threatened. I would probably try and find a way to move it in so that Kirk makes a decision in favor of Spock, and it costs him his son's life.
That's a hell of a thing to put on the character, though, because it's like, what do you then draw from him as a person? Then it's like you sacrifice someone who's like your flesh and blood, who is alive, to have the chance to bring back someone who's just your friend.
Considering how this ends, you don't get a lot of Spock. I would probably then want to really draw that into the fourth movie. Like, Kirk made a huge decision that was, and maybe he regrets it somewhat. Or it would be human to feel that way, I guess. I also thought this was funny that he's like, "I won't do it because you wish it." It's like, well,
I just want to fuck with you, you dick.
Well, it's like, but he also wishes all of them are set up, but he still does that.
Yeah.
This was obviously just, we're gonna have our big fight. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is where I really felt the lack of like development between these two specifically. It's like, I guess they fight because they're hero and villain.
Yeah. No, I very much agree on that. And like, say like Kirk was like, okay, I'm totally willing to give you all of the information about Genesis, but I'm going to need like a computer with access to like the Starfleet database, because I can't really just tell you it here.
Yeah.
You know, like clearly they have to go somewhere for this. It's like, no, they just need to be
Yeah,
in
it
this
does
place so they can fight.
does feel like Christopher Lloyd loses his mind a little bit.
Yeah,
He has what may be called Obadiah Stane syndrome in third act.
yeah. I mean, I get that he's like, you know, he's at the brink because he's lost his entire crew, and so he wants revenge. But yeah, this probably isn't the way to go about it. It's almost like, you know, because like Kirk and Khan never got a fight scene together. It's like they had to overcompensate with this movie.
Yeah, but that almost betrays the at least partial misunderstanding of why the conflict between Khan and Kirk is so strong, even though they didn't throw a punch at each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it ties into this whole idea. Like this movie is kind of a lot more conventional in so many ways, and a lot more safe, like you said before. Like it upsets the balance in some ways with like the loss of David and the destruction of the Enterprise, but like it's quite a conventional movie in a lot of respects.
Well, even this, right? So I was watching this, and when he says like "give me a hand," I thought for a second I was like, "Wait, why the fuck would Kirk would just fucking kick him off?"
Yeah,
At this point, he fucking hates this man, and imagine how strong he is for emotions. And then he does just go like, "I've had enough of you." It's like, yeah, that makes more sense. But it felt to me like he offered the hand up because that's what a lot of characters do. Yeah, in that situation. But I actually think it would have been cleaner if he had just fucking kicked him off.
Yeah, I think so. I would have been all right with that. I think he's more than justified as well at this point.
This guy has destroyed everything as far as he's concerned. And so detrimental for his own interests. But, you know, Klingons, as far as I'm aware, are not exactly known to be the calmest of thinkers.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the biblical references are pretty obvious here, where you're seeing like paradise transformed into hell with like the fire and everything. Quite nice, like scenes of destruction there. Again, all just done with practical effects. Looks good.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good for the most part.
Oh, and I kind of like this too. It would be difficult to tell that's not your captain when he's just yelling
Yeah. Good timing on that. The whole world just like collapsed underneath you.
The planet knew. The planet was watching the fight.
Yeah.
Only one left.
Yeah, like I say, the guy who was the most, I guess, forward-thinking of the Klingons.
Fine, I'll kill you later. Well, yeah, just fucking imagine being that Klingon. Jesus. What a day.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
But
I hope the Enterprise is okay.
Yeah, it's hanging
sure
in there. I feel like if this was a modern movie though, like the next film, like they would go and investigate the wreckage of it on the planet, and it would have some like vital component that they need or whatever.
They'd have to bypass some kind of compressor.
I would say so, yeah. Standard procedure at this point, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of lucky that Spock got to like just the right age for like what he was originally.
That was another thing. I didn't understand why taking him away from Genesis would slow or stop the aging process. I figured that was part of his whole genealogy. Like it had been in
Well,
him.
I assume because the planet is composed of protomatter and he wasn't originally when he was shot there. It's like almost like it's got like a field around it, like it's just experiencing this rapid aging. Once you take him out of that, it's no longer happening. But it did make me wonder as well. Like, did Kirk and the others like age by like a decade or so while they were there? Like, were they affected by it?
Listen, okay, it worked out kind of just exactly the way you would.
Yeah. It's like Spock's actually like a teenager now or something. Oh, God damn it.
It wouldn't be so bad to roll anybody back by about 20 years. We'd be like, fuck yeah.
This is a very nice scene actually with Bones. Because he, like, yeah, normally fucking hates him and they always clash and stuff, but it's like just that little acknowledgement of like, no, you're actually a really close friend of mine and I couldn't stand to lose you a second time. Not gonna lie, like the Vulcans really picked a shit planet to live on. It's pretty bleak.
Didn't they get wiped out in the 2009 film?
Yeah, just a lot of stupid things happened in those
What a
movies.
choice!
It was
his name? Eric
definitely a
Bana.
choice.
He had access to time travel, and he decided to use it to kill the Vulcans. It's like, bro.
Yeah. He had a mining vessel, and apparently it was invincible to like the best of the Federation's flagship, like that could throw it at. Yeah, sure, okay, fine.
All I remember about that one compared to Into Darkness was just I was like, I don't remember Star Trek being so fucking action packed.
Well, it's not like
yeah.
You
Well,
watch
obviously.
stuff like this, yeah, you know, like look how limited the action was in this movie. But look how much more meaningful it was. Like that scene of like the Enterprise leaving space dock, like escaping. It was just a ship reversing out, basically, and then leaving. And yet they made it so tense and so action, like so, meaningful, dramatically, that it didn't matter.
It's a part of the identity of the IP because you don't want, even if one was to say it's more Star Warsy when you do what JJ did, even though obviously nowadays it's like a hilarious statement. That's Star Trek and Star Wars are not the same thing. Nor is Stargate, nor is Farscape, nor is
one of the big criticisms of the TNG movies is that they try to make them like action films, particularly First Contact, where it is just like
I know the memes from that because I remember, doesn't Picard have like a Tommy gun at some point? He's shooting everything.
Yeah.
Just like, what the fuck?
And it's like, but it's such a, particularly compared to the Next Generation, it's such a horrible contrast because that show like had the perfect Star Trek balance of like thought-provoking ideas with the occasional bit of really meaningful action.
Yeah, because it was weird for me because I always knew them by reputation, like these characters, and so when I saw him doing that, I was like, I thought Picard was like known for being really like a good speaker, very assertive, by the book sort of stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't realize you were a fucking guy with Tommy gun. And I remember, was it something that he was pushing for as well? Patrick Stewart.
It was more like he enjoyed driving, and so he wanted like a chase sequence. And so in Star Trek Nemesis, there was this shitty dune buggy sequence that just felt so out of place and unnecessary. Plinkett, like in his old reviews, like they discussed that quite a bit. How there's basically TV show Picard and then movie Picard, and they're like completely different characters.
Yeah, meanwhile,
like Kirk, movie Kirk and TV show Kirk are much more in line with each other.
Do you just say Picard?
I've created a new character. It's like Sonitude. Yeah.
I also thought this might have been an opportunity, but I don't know if they would just not want to go there to, we could have, and to be fair, I haven't seen the next film, so I don't know exactly, but do have quite a serious detrimental effect on Bones for doing this.
Nah, not really. Like
I,
once
I will
this is
assume
done,
not
he's
if he's
back to
going to be in the
normal.
next three of them. Like,
I think it's more implied that this is just a gamble. It's either going to work or it's not. Like
well, and
you'll go back to normal or you'll die.
we talked about like costs, and I guess I would classify it as like direct costs. This feels like everyone here understands that Bones here could lose something from this, and that he's choosing to do it anyway, which for me is just fertile ground for some form of a result. But the thing is, I'd have to like really think about it, and I'd have to know exactly what Bones means to like the fans, because if you put a timer on him as a result of this, like his brain starts to degenerate,
Yeah.
and you could have the fourth film be about that journey, and then he does die at the end of it or something. It's like, that's a definitively harsh cost. And imagine that if we did tweak it all so that it cost Kirk's son and Bones to save Spock, and then we can just have that be a weight on him that he has to think about for himself.
I mean, I think you could do it. I think probably they wanted to make a clean break after this and move on to a different story, which
Yeah.
I can kind of get behind. Ultimately, you can only draw this out so much, and I think at this point, like Kirk having sacrificed his career in Star Trek, his ship, and his son to get Spock back, is probably enough at that point.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I do respect this a hell of a lot more than what they could have done, which is, okay, Spock's just alive on Genesis. Yep. Let's go get
Everything's
him.
fine. And yeah, with a scene like this, okay, you're not getting to see an awful lot. Like, there's not lots of special effects going on. I don't need there to be, though. Like, I get the significance of what's happening here, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Again, if this was fucking modern day Star Trek or Disney or Marvel or whatever, there'd be lightning bolts like flashing between her hands and things. Like, it would just be ridiculous.
Absolutely.
There is a nice little conversation between McCoy and Spock in the next movie, though, of what his experience of the afterlife was. You know, because he's basically like, "You really have been where no man has gone before. What the hell was it like? What did you see?" And yeah, Spock just gives him the worst, most evasive answer ever. You can just see how annoyed McCoy is about it.
I could imagine a Spock answer not being satisfying. Yeah.
It's something along the lines of like we couldn't discuss something like that without a common frame of reference. And McCoy's like, "What do you mean I have to die before I can discuss the afterlife?" And he's like, "Yeah, pretty much." Ah, fuck you then.
She's just lazy.
Yeah, she could walk that asshole.
It's a cool detail as well. I think they wanted to emphasize how long this took, and so Bones and Kirk, and I think the rest, so it would make sense. They're developing their 5 o'clock shadow.
Hmm. And it's daytime, obviously.
Yeah, these are all just things to help us understand that was not a quick and easy thing.
Yeah. What did it cost? Everything.
Yeah, I just like the commentary as well. That what was it? What's the reason he made that gambit? Couldn't not do it.
Hmm.
And of course,
And
the Wrath of Khan ending on the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and then the commentary here being like, well, is there ever an instance in which the needs of the one are outweighed or outweighing?
in this case, for Kirk, it was.
Yeah, this is the
And I think
choice he
that's
made.
nice. Like for the power of friendship, it's like for me, you were worth more than that.
His hair feels younger than his face.
It really does. Because I think Nimoy, like, he had a full head of hair right up till the end. And yeah, like he had an old face probably before his time. And there is this weird mismatch. Isn't that interesting? The power of not speaking.
Oh god, it's a lost art. You mentioned it in your One Life video.
Oh, that scene. Like, I can't wait for you to see that. Like,
There's
the significance of that is just so well done.
there's countless moments in some of my favorite films where the most meaning can be drawn out of just a look. Look at him go. Like I can't see anyone saying he's not a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
Those eyes.
We remember that scene where Spock's father mind melds with him, and all you can see is Kirk's eyes. Like the moment of Spock's passing, he's reliving it in his mind, and he just like gives this plaintive like no, and like all it relies on is the look in his eyes, and it's fantastic. Just he absolutely nailed it. I have to say that makes me feel a lot of positive emotions.
That makes sense.
You know, I think if you're going to go through all of this, and if you're going to bring a character back from the dead and essentially undo a previous movie, I think this is a pretty damn good way of doing it. In a way that doesn't feel like
I think
cheating.
it scores a lot higher than many worse versions, even okay versions. There are a few IPs that I know that have dealt with resurrections and do it in a way that I approve of.
Yeah. I'm just going to close down the video now because it's just credits. And this is the back in the day when we didn't have after credit scenes. Just
even though they do intend to make more, they didn't need to do like a oh god, Flim Flam is here and he's blown up.
It's like we got to get them primed for the next thing. Movies like this are such a wonderful throwback to a different era of filmmaking when there was a lot more credit given to the audience in terms of their intelligence, their ability to endure things and to understand things and not need constant bombardment of next thing, next action sequence, next plot event, next thing that you need to get excited about. They could draw out the suspense, they could draw out the tension, and they can make the payoffs worth it ultimately. And I think this film is just a really nice example of that, done well.
Well, it sounds a bit silly, I guess, but it's that I'm showing up for a story to be told to me by artists in the industry that know what they're doing, and then I leave completed in that way. Kind of like showing up for a meal at a restaurant and you get what you saw on the menu, you paid for it, and then you got it and you ate it and you leave. There's no crazy meta nonsense about the chef calling you a racist. There's no like it's not just a rat that's on your plate. You're like, why is what? I don't think I ordered this. Like, and then as you leave, they say like, never fucking come back. You're like, okay. It's a different experience, yeah.
It was a simpler time. It was a simpler time in franchises, both for Star Trek or the wider franchise world in general. and it was just a more intelligent time, I think, particularly in the world of Star Trek, where they actually knew that their audience was made up of sci-fi fans who would get this stuff. They weren't trying to cater to action movie fans. They weren't trying to cater to the general audience. And you got movies like this. And as you said, there's certainly things that you could have tweaked, that you could have improved upon in order to give some of the payoffs a little bit more weight. You could have messed around with like David's death and so on. But ultimately, I'm not dissatisfied with what we got.
No, I like I said, I think that's a solid entry, and it's nice to know that they got a streak going to the point of, from what I'm gathering, the fourth one is quite well liked as well.
Yeah. So the fourth one is a big departure from this tone, and like I won't spoil the whole plot for you or anything, but I'll just say in terms of tone, it's like they very much felt like we've had two pretty heavy entries in the series with Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock. We're going to go a little bit more lighthearted adventure sort of story with this, and not get too caught up in what's come before. Like, it doesn't contradict anything that's happened before, for sure, and particularly the end. There's a reckoning, for sure, with everything that they've done, but it's very much just making a fresh start, and it feels like a good-natured movie, and I think it was a palate cleanser after what came before.
Yeah,
and again, there's a lot of fun to be had with Star Trek 4.
Well, I mean, I suppose that'll be interesting for whenever we continue this little adventure.
Yeah, we
have to see what everyone thinks. Comment section, shall we continue or nay?
Yeah, tell us what you think. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that people are probably going to want us to do another one of these, but yeah, we'll try not to leave it
over here.
We'll try not to leave it a whole year before we do another one of these, because I mean, personally, I really enjoy it. Like, I've obviously seen these movies many times before. You're seeing it for the first time, but I think that makes for a nice little contrast as we go through.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're almost polar opposites in terms of approaching to understanding this. You've seen it who knows how many times, and you're a long-term fan since you were much younger, and I'm brand new. But that we both, I think, on similar levels for what we like in a story. So
yeah. And it gives me a lot of enjoyment to see you be able to watch this and get something good out of it. You know, I would be quite surprised if you were to watch movies like this and be like, "No, this is garbage. Like, I can't believe this. You're well, I mean, this nonsense drinker."
There's an often hilarious sort of point of view. It's definitely not from our own fans, but there's people outside of it who are like, these guys, they only like the non-stop action, lame and no subtext, no themes, sort of, crap. And it'd be like, well, I mean, it's you were just talking about a movie that's got, I presume, no action scenes as typically expected in like One Life, and then you got something like this, which is a very contemplative sci-fi, as is arguably Star Trek: The Motion Picture is as almost classic dry sci-fi as you can get.
Yeah, very much. I
don't mean that to insult it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I loved watching the motion picture. Like, I've definitely gained more of an appreciation for it as I've gotten older, and more boring. But yeah, it's still not a kind of movie I would dig out to rewatch necessarily. Whereas Wrath of Khan would definitely fall into that category. But it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, for me, my final thoughts, and I'll let you give yours as well, obviously, is it was very pleasant to rewatch this. The movie still has a bit of a kick to it for me, even having rewatched it many times over the years. I think, as I've said, if you are going to follow up The Wrath of Khan and you want to some extent undo the finale of that movie in a way that's dramatically satisfying, I think this movie finds a way to strike that balance and not feel like it's cheating you, not feel that it's rewriting the rules. And so for that reason, I give it a thumbs up from the drinker. And I think it's perhaps a slightly underappreciated Star Trek movie.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's interesting to know that there'd be the odds and evens sort of perspective, and that maybe this would be considered a weaker entry, when I think it's like, I would happily call it good, and it's a very solid attempt at doing something I think is incredibly difficult. Like I said, there's a point of view that I imagine there must be some fans that had, which is that this film undoes all of the effects of Wrath of Khan, but that you have to take a bit more of a nuanced approach and understanding like they worked hard to do a lot of the changes that they've made, and they make a lot of them very meaningful. Yes, there are tweaks I would like, and yes, I do put it distinctly below Wrath of Khan. Like, it's not like they're close together or anything. It's like, well, no, I think there's so much more going on in Wrath of Khan, and that it's a pity that some things didn't carry over in terms of what's working. But at the same time, it could have been a hell of a lot worse, and I think it's actually a pretty solid way to continue the story. And I do know it does continue, and I'll be happy to see what happens next.
All righty. Well, stay tuned, and sometime, hopefully in the near future, we'll do part 3 of this series where we do Star Trek 4. But for the time being,
that numbering system is very straightforward.
It is, yeah. This is what happens when we completely skipped out on the first movie. It's like
I
it was
made
okay,
sure to talk about the first one in our first videos. We're all good.
Yeah, we're fine. But anyway, for now at least, that is all we've got for today. So we're going to say, go away now.
Bye.